One thing, sometimes we always come and stay behind our cameras and they don't know who is who. So we're having great Tabi join us. Welcome, good evening and welcome. Right, great. Okay. Um, yeah, so I would just appeal that as we go along, please, if you are somewhere that at least we can see you, it's always good just for us to connect. Don't just hide always. I know we've been getting so comfortable, even when it's a big group, we just hide ourselves behind the cameras, but it's always good to when we connect more, when we can know the people behind the names. So, like I mentioned early on, we'll be having Tabi will be doing who is our guest speaker for this evening. And yeah, everyone saw the flyer, and we are really, really honored to have her here. She already joined us. And we are not going to really take so much time. It's 8:33. And um, Tabi, I'll just allow you. I'm sorry, I'm not sure I can do a proper introduction. So rather than fumbling around, I'll allow you in your talk, and as you are giving your presentation, we'll get to know you more, and then you can do the introduction as it suits. And everyone is really looking forward to hear you today. So I think I leave you to continue. So take it away. Thank you.
Before Tabby talks, welcome, Tabby.
Okay, great. Yeah. You're still on mute. Maybe you unmute yourself and just, yeah, great.
Okay. Yeah, there we go.
Great.
Hope you can
Oh,
hear me.
yes.
Okay, right?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
All right. So I don't know if you can see. I'm gonna start to share. Um, do you see anything coming
Yes,
through
we
your?
do.
Oh, okay.
Please, you can unmute and answer as well. Let it not be like I'm the one talking. Okay, we can
Yeah.
see.
All right.
Right. Mhm.
So
I think we're seeing the wrong side of your presentation. We're seeing where you're supposed to have your notes.
okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. So
We
let
have both
me.
of it. For non-techies, position a smart career change in tech.
Yeah, but I
Right.
think I get new use point.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just share this.
Yeah, thank you, Martha, for coming on. We can see your face at least.
So do you see the normal screen now?
Yes. Oh, great. We
Okay.
can see that.
Okay. Right. Okay. So thanks a lot again, everybody, for having me here. And I especially want to thank Vero, who's my friend here in my stomping ground in Belgium. So I live in Belgium and I've come to know Vero for a little while now, from another separate agenda. And also Banjika and Shian in the same light, more on a professional side, I would say. So what I will do today, so first of all, just to give a bit of a preface, is that when Vero and Shian actually approached me and Banjika was to the question of the fact that, in this forum, we have all kinds of people in this community. So there are those who are techie and those who are non-techie. So the idea is for those who are non-techie, so a bit of a focus for those who are non-techies, how do you position yourself to really penetrate this tech industry? And this talk today is more about giving more of a motivation and an idea of ways in which you can do so. And I thought that I think this topic, if you Google it, which I actually did, you'll find all kinds of tips, right? So rather than give you more tips, I thought maybe the best approach would to give you my story and perhaps another use case that then allows you to understand really the nuances around penetrating tech. And I would also love for this session to be more interactive. So feel free to just jump in and say, hey, I have a question around this, and let's discuss. So if we can just open that, the platform to discuss and talk, that would be also very much appreciated. So, so based on that, the idea, at least the agenda that I have, is very, it's just a very thin agenda, but I hope that it's effective enough for you to, for those who are non-techies especially, to be encouraged and to come out with at least one thing. And let's hope that at least will happen. So what I'll do is just give you a little bit of my background. I'll also talk a bit what I see in the tech industry, and again, you can Google what are the tech trends, but I will focus a little bit on the industry that I'm currently working in, and then give you a bit of a case study, and hopefully some takeaways that you can take with you and hopefully implement them. So yeah, so just jumping it right through a bit of my background. So yes, I'm Tabitha Gichora, formerly Tabitha, but a lot of people call me Tabby. And I'm a trained computer science, and also I earned my master's degree in computer engineering. I studied in the US, so Texas and Minnesota, but originally I'm from Kenya, born and raised. And as for most people who are here in the diaspora, there's always an itch, right? You always think of what can I take back home? And I think that also talks to the reason we are all here today. Thinking of how can we, for me at least, it's how can I still be a part and parcel for the development back in Kenya. So I started my career in tech about 20 years ago. As a system engineer, and I started in IBM. So I don't know if you know Banjika, but I was at IBM at one point. I don't know if there are more IBMers here. And I started as a system engineer. And essentially that was system engineering in WebSphere. So that's the middleware product that's solely sold by IBM. And my role at that point was really looking at the profiling of systems from the resources of CPU memory all the way to the application layer. And with those profiles, we were able to basically assess the performance of the system and optimize it through different tools that we had. And my role, and with that role, came the fact that we also aligned a lot to the marketing folks, because when you're releasing something, any kind of product or system, you always want it to be better than the last. You also want to make sure you have a good marketing positioning from a segmentation point of view. Where do you, which area do you want to play a part in? And sorry?
Tabby, sorry. I don't know if it's intentional. We can see just a gray screen at the moment, and then we
that's
see.
fine. Yeah, that's
okay,
fine.
Good. Wanted to be sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm just talking about my background, and and I'll put the notes later. But I prefer first to talk, if that's okay.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, so just to so to continue on that note, I continued as a system performance engineer, and what happened is that during my line of professionalism, I quickly learned that I'm missing something, and that was an area in the business side that I really wanted to explore. So the role in itself, it's very, very technical, and I wanted to explore business side of of IBM, let's say. And so with that, I started to, first of all, I took on a role as a project manager, managing a portfolio of these WebSphere products from a performance perspective, and then enrolled into an MBA. And actually, that's how I found myself in the Netherlands, in Europe, studying at Rotterdam. And after my studies there, I started to work in HP. I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to be more in the customer-centric arena. So working with various globals at our enterprise solutions and taking the role of the end-to-end program manager, let's say. And one of the things that I learned throughout, so the reason I'm giving this story is to let you know that I really went from, that very technical person to somebody who was in the professional world, still in tech, but less tech. More in the program management, looking at how can we strategize our solutions and how can we engage more with customers. So that transition exists within tech. So for those who may wonder, is that even a possibility? And after that transition, I want to say that one of the key things that you learn is that you have to be able to quickly recognize what you're good in and recognize how to capitalize on those things or those potentials that make you valuable. And so the key, when I talk about my background, I wanted to pen gray. I hope you can now see a bit of data there. Is really, I can say, my establishment of my transition has been benefited by having great mentors and coaches along the way who've helped that transition. And then being able to leverage your experience to bridge the divide. So what that means is that for those who are thinking about crossing over to tech or even being in tech itself, but looking at cloud, which is the reason we're here, looking at cloud as an area you would like to explore. I remember talking to one coach or mentor who was a CIO at that time in the Netherlands. And when I was thinking about these switches, sometimes we have the perception that we need to leave what we have done and really go forward with this new area that we want to explore. And I remember him telling me, don't throw away what you already have, capitalize on it. And it was a great lesson. As easy as it sounds, it was a great lesson because the tendency is to really think about that place you want to be and forget about what you have. So it's really taking that and figuring out how to marry these two worlds that you want to be to explore in. And then I also emphasize on performing a 360. And a 360, for those who may not know, is it's a tool that you can use to use with your friends, with your friend circle, or even your family. And I always say, try to make it also with the professionals that you have done great work with, and also those who you have not done great work with, and be receptive to that discussion where you get constructive feedback, because it's at that moment that you can actually see those blind spots that normally your friends will probably tell you it's fine and yeah, blah blah blah, but that there's that person who will tell you, perhaps in my case it's, yeah, you're not assertive enough, for example. And I would take that and figure out, how can I be more assertive, or how can I make that area where I'm weak stronger by ensuring I have the right tool sets. So that's a little bit about my background and how I transitioned from a very tech world to let's say non-tech, but still where the knowledge that I have in tech really helps me to be in these rooms with heads of departments, with customers, and continue still on the journey of providing that customer solution to them, which is what I love, and which is what helps me thrive, because I'm really let's say I'm that person who likes to interact with people and form engagements and deliver the promise that we have made as an organization. So I hope that gives you an idea who I am. And I also say from a personal perspective, I'm also a mother, I'm a wife and also, yeah, I have 2 girls and we live here in Belgium. So that gives you a bit an idea of who I am. So just a normal person from Kenya, a woman working in tech.
Great.
All right.
Great.
So then, so when we drill down a little bit in the tech industry and the trends that we see, here again, I don't want to go into details of what are the trends. We all know, you know, AI, IoT, all those big things that you hear, or even you can Google and see what Gartner has published or Deloitte or whoever. The idea is just to give you a bit of a feeling, like what is actually happening in the technology world within the industry that I'm working in. What are those buzzwords we hear? And in my area today, I'm working in the healthcare space for Philips Healthcare. And what I keep hearing is about digital transformation. You know, even if you look at roles today, you'll just see digital leader here, etc., etc. And the reason that's happening, at least I can talk about healthcare, is because we notice that, for example, at least for Philips, and I'll try to make sure that I give you information that is also available for the public, is that you do see that Philips has been traditionally been a product-driven company. And what that means is that they will develop big products, so image-guided therapy solutions, you know, answering to cardiology type of cases. So they have this, what we call big ions. And those big ions can take, you know, 10 years to have another cell, let's say. And slowly you'd realize that that idea of having products is really an old ideology. And the company is now transforming. So they are coming through they are going through a digital transformation and saying we need to go from a product-driven company to a service-oriented company. And what that means is that when you sell these products, you're not selling the product. You should be thinking about selling a solution. And selling a solution means that a hospital can say, we need a cardiology solution, or I need, in tech, you can say, I need a cybersecurity solution. And what that means is that traditionally you would offer them maybe typical an OS patching service for their big ion, and then they say later on, I would like to have a security monitoring service. So you think of maybe we need to install a SOC. Oh, but by the way, you need to talk to this other modality that offers that SOC for cardiology. And the customer says, I am actually working with, let's say, monitoring devices. So then it becomes this, hey, Mr. Customer, you need to talk to this department, you need to talk to this business. So you're not selling one solution, and that becomes a pain to the customer. So when you talk about digital transformation, it's saying that we should be thinking about having solutions or services that serve the customer's pain point across the whole end-to-end of their journey. And what that means now, when you translate it from in a tech world, it means that we have to have solutions or services that, you know, if they're catered in the cloud, they answer to the need of that hospital from an end-to-end workflow. And that's why, let's say, Philips is realizing that the old model of selling a product doesn't work anymore. And the customer is looking at that one Philips providing a solution to the need or to that pain point of the customer. And so the second thing that you see is that businesses are being challenged to be more agile. So business agility becomes a big concern. And how do they do that? And that means that from a value proposition, to be agile means that you can quickly build a solution or a product. It might not be the best, but it's a full product. And then the next iteration, you make it better. And the next iteration, you make it better. So incremental value delivery. And when you see this type of trends, what's happening in the back of the scenes is that business processes are being reinvented. You see that the roles are also changing. You see the mindset, also how you used to deliver products is also changing. So the strategic thinking is also transforming. And the reason I say I give you this background is because when you're studying the cloud doesn't mean that you will finish this jam or this study and then look for a job in, let's say, one of the big cloud providers. For me, it also means that look inside where you are today and see what type of transformations are taking place. And think of how you can bring your worth and capitalize on that, because this jam in itself has given you so much value and so much that you can actually use where you are. So it doesn't mean that you have to get out of your space to apply at AWS or apply at Google, which is fine. But I think that sometimes we miss the mark where we are at. Is your organization transforming? And if it is, think of how you can use your tool sets as you are. So in this tech trend proposition, it's my emphasis are really to say that already being in this community answers to the fact that you have that intrinsic notion of knowledge pursuit. So you're pursuing a trend, and that in itself is already fantastic because it gives you some kind of mission and purpose. And in fact, you can build upon that autonomy to develop it even further. And the other thing I can say is know your value. Yeah, so know your value in the sense that don't throw away what you have, but instead ask your question, what am I good at? And adapt to the change. So if your organization again is transforming, or you know of an area that you would like to project to, quickly think of how you can adapt yourself to that change, right? And then last but not least is now exploring those non-tech careers. So you may say that, all right, this is well and dandy, and I'm learning compute, I'm learning all about the cloud. But be true to yourself. Are you a good developer? Are you that person who can be in the a lab rat, as we call them? And if you're not, that's fine, because there's so many other opportunities within the industry that you can actually thrive in. Perhaps you're a financier, and in finance, you may say that I want to look at the spend control of cloud, which is another area. Spend management is another area that is becoming even more and more important to businesses. So there are various career areas you can look at, which also touch on the cloud, which don't require you to be essentially tech. So product management, I worked a lot with product managers, and these people tend to be very cross-functional, looking at the end-to-end development of these products that I was mentioning earlier. There are those who are account executives. They tend to be a bit technical in the sense that they can talk tech with the businesses, but in their other side, really their main focus is to engage and to make sure that they can manage those customer expectations. And then there are, sales managers. We all know they follow and they, look to make sure they can get some leads and close and have those funnels all going from cash, from concepts to cash. And then there are people like me who are program managers, and we look at the holistic view of delivering solutions from end to end. So when I say explore, I also mean don't just think. I would, in fact, take another step and look for those jobs and apply, get an interview, fail, so what? And that gives you that energy of or idea of what is really required in these particular roles that you think you can pursue. And I think that's one message I can say, that go for it, explore, but don't just explore by just Googling, do something, put an action behind it. And that will only make your transition better when you're really now forced to move or need and want to move. So I'll pause here for a minute and ask anybody if you have any questions before we go towards the last slide. I don't have too much.
Okay, I do have a question on, you did mention, first of all, I'm near you, Tata, I'm not forget.
Yeah.
I really wanted to ask a question on the 360. You did mention about 360. I don't know if I really understood it. Did you mean 360 like having an honest conversation with someone? I didn't really get it.
Okay. There's a tool. If you've worked with some coaches or mentors, whatever, there's a tool called 360. So it's a tool that you can build a set of questions and then pose those questions to people who you have worked with. And normally they call it 360 because you go around, let's say it can be your colleagues or people within this community, maybe you've done some projects with. So you kind try to look around your life or in your professional life and see how many touch points you can make and responses you can get to understand really who you are. What are you good at? Where can you improve? And what has gone good and what has gone bad, right? So with that, you kind of cover those blind spots, because sometimes you think you're doing good all the time, but somebody may have seen an area that you can improve on. And that's why people do this 360s.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So
please feel free, if there's anyone with a question, please feel free to come in.
Yeah. And maybe I can prompt and say, is there somebody looking to transform or to transition and is having a hard time, or yeah.
Who is speaking, please?
Okay, here is Vera. Thank you so much for the talk so far. It's been very helpful. And I was just thinking, you said something very pertinent there about trying to transition and looking for where we are, the opportunities within the companies or where we are currently. And I just wanted to find out, what are the roles you see like for accountants, or if you have financial backgrounds, what are the kind of expansions that you see in the cloud industries that can be linked in the cloud industry? Because I personally find myself in this situation where I want to get more in cloud, but I don't want to move from where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's very valid, and that's why I brought it up, because sometimes people always think that they need to go somewhere else. So I try to say pause and look around where you are, because maybe the answer is there. So from finance, I'm not a financier, but I have seen, because I do have some friends who are also in that area. So one, within the cloud, you see that there's this notion that they are calling spend management. And essentially that means that that companies, even maybe like yours, has started to transform or to move towards the cloud, but they don't have a good handle on how to really unlock the power of cloud and really capitalize on the power from a budget. Because when you're moving to the cloud, there's always the fact that you're saving on your TCO, right? Total cost of ownership. So you'll see that whilst that is a sell, a lot of companies don't know how to do that. So financiers are brought into the picture to start to do those type of analysis, like, are we really saving on the cost? Because yes, there's a total cost of ownership, but then when you get to the cloud, there's also services that you have to buy and you have to maintain. So it's doing those type of analysis that most companies are trying to get a grasp on. And then there's a part also now from a provider point of view is, how do they make sure that the services that they're providing, they have a proper, they can actually realize those margins, because a lot of services, those microservices, are also based on demand. So projecting those type of forecasts is an area where I see financiers being brought in. So you may not be the one coding, but you can actually analyze that type of data. Then the other thing that I'm seeing, at least in my company, that's requiring a lot of finance intuition is in infrastructure procurement services, where you may have that knowledge around the infrastructure that's required, but they don't have a good hold of the procurement processes and how to optimize that end-to-end channeling of procuring and making sure you have the right partners. So those are the things I have seen in a very high level, Vera.
Thanks very much. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think if I was you, I would, just I normally have informal discussions like this with people. So just look at somebody, even a financial controller in your company, and say, hey, I would like to have an informal chat to see how you're strategically positioning the company, and make it very open to where you're not looking for anything. Sometimes when you say you're not looking to get hired, they feel like, okay, yeah, come on in, right? It's when you go with an agenda, I'm looking for a job, they're like, okay, wait a minute. So I try to make it as informal as possible, which is also what you really want to know, is to understand, is this a place that you would like to play? Yeah. And
Exactly.
that's what I do. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Very welcome. Leila, I see you trying to chime in. Do you want to say something? Maybe not.
Ask another question. What are the challenges you see as a lady in tech?
Ooh, so yeah, I've been in tech for at least about 20 years or so. working in a very male-dominated area. I think what I see is, as women, being a woman for me has never been something I think, okay, I'm a woman going into this space. It's more like I find myself amongst these men peers. And I think what it for me it says is that just be yourself and stand up as that professional. Because the minute that you feel intimidated or I think it will show, and that's what you don't want to show, because that's not why you're there. You're there because you're equally capable. So make sure that when you're in those spaces, be yourself, speak your truth, and you will gain the respect that you deserve. And not to be too, I'm here as a woman and no, you're here as a professional. That's the first thing I say to myself. I'm here as a professional, and your worth will show. You don't need to talk too much about your worth. Your worth will show by the results that you provide. So that's what I see, at least in my area. And I've been, let's say, in the past, very lucky to have peers who also didn't look at me as a woman, rather as their colleague. When I was at IBM, and also when I was in HP. Of course, there were areas, let's say maybe when I was in IBM, I remember, there were tricky things because I worked in the lab, or I was a lab rat at that moment, where you have to really connect the cabling, and they're like, okay, don't worry, Tabby, we'll do that for you. You don't have to climb the ladder with your miniskirt, right? So they'll do those little kind of trivial things, but when it comes to the analysis, you're just equal. So I've been lucky to have peers, but don't get me wrong, they're what I call female and male characteristics. And I say characteristics because there are those characteristics that tend to be more feminine, and there are some characteristics that tend to be more masculine. And sometimes men may have feminine type of characteristics, and female might have male type of characteristics. And I'll give you an example. So assertiveness, for example, is an area where you tend to connotate that as a masculine characteristic. You will see, let's say, emotional intelligence being more characterized as a female characteristic. But you'll also find males who are very very emotionally intelligent. So what I say is that make sure you understand what you're good at. So which kind of characteristics you have, because in a male-dominated environment, you might see some things that are more prominent, and maybe it's your role to bring that characteristic that is missing. And I say that in a good way, because when it's a team, it has to be balanced. So those masculine characteristics and male characteristics are important for the team to thrive. So don't be shy to bring that worth that you have that is lacking. And maybe it's a female characteristic, it's fine. So if you bring that emotional part, emotional intelligence in thought process of how should we deal with it, is not cutthroat, is not take or go. Bring that in, and it will be appreciated. So that's what I can say in working with a very male-dominated environment.
That's great. Thanks. And my last question is, most of us will be venturing in this adventure, in this cloud space. You mentioned mentorship as one of your personal goals in life. how can we establish, we are new in this industry, or we new in starting this, and even in our workplaces, what advice would you give us towards establishing that mentorship wherever we are?
I'll tell you something that that my husband says sometimes. He says that go to the coffee shop, to the coffee corner, and look at who's smiling at you. That's the person you want to start to talk to. You don't know who he is or she is, but start to talk. Eventually, you'll meet somebody who is maybe in your line of work, and because mentorship is not somebody who's giving you something, it's also you giving them something. So it should be a two-way, at least the way I have worked. So in mentorship, you have a goal. For example, you have a goal and say, maybe in the next 3 years, I want to be promoted. Can you mentor me through this journey? Have a goal. Have that person who's, I call them sort of like your ally, right? Establish that that relationship with them. So I've had, let's say, mentors who have also served different purposes. So it could be a mentor, now you're thinking about transitioning. I would look at that person who is serving a role that you perhaps would desire one time in your future. Not to say that you want to take their job, but you want to learn about what they are doing and how they're making it. Establish a relationship with them, and you may not be able to call it mentor in the first place, because you want to see if this is a person you can interact with. Again, it's two-way. It's always two-way. They help you get there. They get something out of you. They, because they love to do it. So that's their give to you. So establish that relationship, and make it a bit diversified. So even somebody who's not in that business unit, but perhaps has been in the company for, I call them dinosaurs. They've been there for so long that they can tell you in 1995 what was happening. That's also your guy or your lady, because that person has something else that somebody would not give you. So I try to kind of get some touch points, and these people become my allies, because don't forget, if you want to move to another department or another area, you'll always find that the person who wants to hire you wants to get some kind of, they want to hear that you're good at something. And that message will only come from people who know you, and they might ask for references. So this become your reference point, clienteles, right? So always think about that. It's a journey you're going through, and you're kind of pulling your campaign party along with you. That's the way I think about it.
Thank you so much. Very helpful. Sorry for asking too many questions.
No. As I said, I'm hoping that you just ask any question, and maybe I'm just in a position to have gone through a bit of transition, so I'm happy to share anything. It's free. It's for you.
Yeah, please, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, with transitioning, it's matter. It's matter. Yeah, I'm joining for the first time. I'm from Texas. I'm joining from Texas.
Yeah, my girl. Where about in Texas are you?
In Angleton, the Houston area.
Oh yeah, I went to PV. I don't know if you know PV.
I don't know.
Prairie View University in Texas, and I lived in College Station.
Okay, yeah. I have this question about switching. When you're already in the industry you're working, it might be easy for you to maneuver yourself and know how to switch. But when you are in the process of getting into it, like we are trying to get into the cloud and trying to get into the industry, how would you be able to match your skills with the non-tech skills that are demanded in some specific roles? like in some specific non-tech roles, like you're saying, we are building, for example, I'm building myself in cloud to try to master some cloud technologies. And maybe from this discussion, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe some of the non-tech roles might be good for me, but then I have not built my skills in that area. So how do I manage that?
First, one thing I want to tell you is every company, every industry is going to go to the cloud. That's without a doubt. They will be doing something cloud related. And I think Google likes to say that every company will become a data company. So going back to my point initially, you don't have to be in with a cloud provider to say that you're in tech. So in your company where you're at today or the company next door, there's always that cloud component to it. So I imagine, what do you do, Mata? What's your area of study or area of professionalism?
I'm working towards software engineering and cloud computing, but right now I work in healthcare.
See, we're in the same industry, healthcare. So I would start with that, healthcare. Healthcare already is doing a lot within the cloud part, because when you talk about healthcare, I'll give you an example. I work in the medical devices. I don't know if your healthcare is a healthcare practitioner, but what it is that an example is that you have we sell medical devices. So an example would be your the bedside monitoring devices. And those devices, if you think about it, if you're even a healthcare practitioner, that device has to be able to talk to the EMRs. It has to be able to connect to the labs. It has to be able to connect, even if you think of telehealth, telemetry outside the hospital. So when you think about that journey, it means that there has to be a component of interoperability, the ability for these components to access data and to able to store that data and to analyze that data. So already where you're at, that data has to be stored in some kind of cloud solution. And that already says to me that you're already in the cloud area. There's something cloud in the industry that you're in. For me, I would say start to capitalize on that, because you already have a footing in the door. It's when you move from, let's say, healthcare and say, I'm going to go to GCP, to Google Cloud, that really the journey becomes a very steep journey. So for me, I'd say make it less painful. Look at what's inside the industry you are and start to form those interactions and relationships to see what you can do within that area. And then say, okay, especially when I talk, when you're working with hospitals or healthcare practitioners, we want to understand the workflow, because a lot of the times there are lots of contentions within, when you look at the journey of the customer within those workflows. So radiology, for example, may be having a lot of contention in accessing EMR data, or even making sure that there's a security component around it. So we work with healthcare practitioners to understand. So clinicians become very important, and these clinicians also they start to build that technical knowledge and help to ensure that the solutions we're providing are optimal. So in that concept, I'd say, look at where you're at. I can say with absolute surety, there's something that's going on within the cloud, and you're in the best position to say, hey, look, I have this healthcare knowledge. I may be able to help us in the transformation of cloud, because I have also taken the initiative to study and to learn about the cloud technologies. And I think combining both would be an asset. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question in a long-winded way.
Yes, thank you. It does, but it's tricky because sometimes when a business is already set up, they already have people in the various departments, and for you to move from where you are to another department takes time. So, but it's you answered the question correctly, like
Yeah,
looking at all these things. Yeah.
and I don't downplay that it's difficult to move, but it can also be easy to move, because easy to move means that you just need to create a network within that area that you're targeting, and that network will help you to make that step. Yeah. So and I say that with a lot of humility, because I've also interviewed in places where within my company, and they said, no, we need domain knowledge, or we need so I completely understand with a lot of humility that it's not as easy as somebody would say it. But I've also seen that if you have the right network, or even your management saying, you know what you're doing right here, a lot of people don't talk about it, but start to talk about it. You know, when you start to talk about it, people know that Martha is taking this type of cloud thing. You start to build your profile without making a lot of noise about it. Start to build your profile slowly by talking to your colleagues, saying you're doing some kind of cloud. That's how you see people transitioning, not because they went to some kind of school and they start to talk about it, they start to demonstrate that they can do it. And that's how the network begins to know, Martha said that they're doing that. Then you see yourself being, when you say I want to apply for that, they can give you that thumbs up. Yeah, go ahead. You have our blessing, you know, kind of thing. So it might be hard. It might be also just easy.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. So I will go to the last part, which again I said when I was starting earlier, is that the things I'm saying are maybe more like motivational. You can Google and find what are the tech trends and all that good stuff, but I didn't want to bring that here because that becomes more redundant. So I wanted to use a case study, right? So somebody I know who made that transition very difficult, and I served as their mentor throughout that journey. And it's somebody I know very personally. So this person was a teacher. So I thought of giving you a case study and saying, okay, take that, run with it. And if nothing come out of here feeling energetic, that it's possible. Yeah. So this person was a teacher, and what they did was they were well educated, served as a teacher because that was their calling. And they used to use something they call user-centered design. So what that essentially means that when you design a curriculum, you have a final design in mind. So for example, if it's quarter one, they will design something and say what would be important for the students to get out of this quarter. And then they develop some kind of building blocks and say, this is what we would like the students to take out at the end of quarter one. So always having the end in mind. So with this teacher, unfortunately, something happened, one bad choice, and she lost everything, lost her career. And it was very devastating, somebody who had always excelled. And I remember her talking and saying, all right, I need to make the transition. And long story short, it was very difficult. But what they did is said, all right, what am I good at? And what do I find joy in? And she was very mission driven. So her take was always that I always wanted to have the kids coming out of the classroom or the end of the quarter and feeling that they have accomplished. And what she was also good at is deconstructing things that seem to be so big. So today it's, let's say, cloud. For the person who's non-techie, they'll be like, man, this is like, whew, so big. But she was very good at deconstructing. And at that time, this is almost 10 years ago, it was about statistical research. And statistical research was a fancy word that was being thrown around. And essentially, it was a fancy word which meant that you're going to deal with data. And what she did with that knowledge that she wanted to be in statistical research, given that this career had gone down the drain, she used that as her leverage. And she got a job, a very small job, which was really to clean up databases. And that's all about data. So the organization she was working with had, 3 or 4 cluttered databases. Working with it was working in a non-profit organization at the time, and the content was so spread out that when you talk to some of their grant donors, they were shuffling their feet trying to find the right data. And so what she did is decided, let's find a way to clean up the data. So the data was not connected, so she started to work on cleaning up the databases. And what she did was so, this is a person who was a teacher before, but she was so driven by the motivation of getting into that statistical research area that she started to be the one migrating the databases into the cloud. And today, this person is, what they call a business intelligent architect, because she's able to sit down with, CEOs and people in big places and be able to extract data that is meaningful for the end user. And so her job, as much as she was never tech, it didn't really become tech as such. She was able to understand the end product. What does my end customer want? They want to be able to digest data. So she's able to build the tables and calculations to join those, join the tables and get data, and then build dashboards, being able to visualize what that data is. And today, that's what's making her successful in this area. And then working in the cloud, because again, it's moving some of those databases into the cloud. And in doing that, she actually doesn't do it. She now hires, she's able to hire architects, such as the people in this room, perhaps, to be able to do that technical part. So I always say that also as non-techie, it doesn't mean that you're going to be left in the playing field by yourself. You will be equipped with the right people to be able to execute the role that you're good at. Also myself, when I'm going into a customer, I'm not going to give the solution. I'm going to discuss what that solution is. And I always partner myself with a solution architect, because in the event the discussion becomes very techy, you have that person, because that's what their role is. And your role is to deliver the solution. So I wanted to give that case study of somebody, it's a real story, of somebody who went from just being a teacher, career going down the drain, to somebody who's very well respected in the business intelligence area, doing statistical research, being able to visualize, help grant donors, big grant donors, visualize data to eventually offer some kind of grants to the mission that they are in at this moment. So So that's what I wanted to share. And then what do you take out of it? So everything you do it with excellence. And the last point is something that I paid a lot of money for, but I'll give it for you for free. It was one statement that was made by a very good coach that was mine. And she said, be where you are celebrated and not tolerated. So if you feel that you are somewhere and you're not at your best, your value is not being celebrated, make that space where you are celebrated and not tolerated. That was a gift that was given to me, and I give it back to you. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you
very
so
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Very much.
All right. Yeah. Quite wonderful one there. I think I see no hands up, but actually I will just still ask just one question for maybe those who are not in tech and they want to transition to tech but not be very in the technical area, because along the line you did mention that you had to do an MBA. Um, I mean, there are some people here, I think maybe they have had some of those, that skill or have that qualification, or maybe I noticed there are other qualifications on project management like the PMP, all these other certifications. Um, what is your, I don't know if you can share your thoughts in regards to those skills, and since you mentioned you did project management, how can this help those people who want to get into tech, but yeah, from a and be more of in a non-technical role, if they are trying to look into those skills and then maybe they get some cloud skills just to be have that introduction. How will that how is that helpful? Just thinking.
Yeah. I think for me, I'll give my, of course, my experience is that I always did certifications when I know I want to use them. So I didn't do certifications just to put them in the back of my pocket. And the reason I say that is because sometimes certifications are like benchmarks, right? To say that you're good at project management. But for me, the value is always when you experience an environment that makes you use that certification, right? So, so when I did my certification in project management was because my management at that moment had offered up, and the idea of, why don't you manage this portfolio of projects? And I thought, okay, to be more efficient, maybe I need to study project management. At the same time, when you asked about my MBA, when I was doing that project management, I realized, oh my goodness, I really can't understand the jargon of salespeople or marketeers because I was really in the tech. So that's when I decided, I think I need to do an MBA to understand this holistic picture of business. So my certifications have always been because something was presented to me, or I felt there was a desire to know something in order to capitalize on it. And not to do it just to do it. That's one thing I can say. At least I really encourage you to do it, but to do the certifications, but to really experience them, to experience what it means to work in what we call today agile leadership. I would say be in that agile space, see how it is, and then the certification will just build on top of that, because there are things that in fact, when I do the certification, I think, oh, I would really like to know what a value stream portfolio management means. And you cannot see that by just studying. You have to see the industry or the business doing something that is value stream related. And if you don't have the opportunity to see it, look for a job that says that they're doing something to do with project management. Look at those asks. Talk to the person or apply for it. Maybe you may fail, but you start to understand what is the requirement around this certification. That's what I can say for me. I really go for the experience rather than just the benchmark of having the certification.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great, great. Thank you. Thank you. You, I see you have your hand up. You want to
and I also see somebody saying, I think people go into certifications so they can better position themselves for opportunity. That's very true. I would also say, like, for example, the JAM. I think people want to take, go through this cloud JAMs so that they can, get, let's say, a cloud architect certificate, perhaps to look for that cloud opportunity. That's very true. You can also do it like, just to say, I think it's the same way you do a bachelor's degree. You don't have a job, but you know that it will position you better in the market. That's not to say it's the other way around is not correct. I think it just depends on the situation you're at.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to thank you very much, Madam Tabi, for this presentation and sharing your tips with us and experiences. I think the thing I also did take and I loved was your experience or tips as a woman in the technology world, like don't feel intimidated and accept that as a team, you need both the male characteristics and the female characteristics. Yeah, did appreciate that. And also the last sentence that on being where you don't be where you're not tolerated.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for sharing that.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
Great. I see for sure, Shira, you have your hand up. Go ahead, please. You're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I have unmuted. So first of all, I just want to say a very big thank you to Tabi. I don't know if you still remember me.
If you put your camera on, maybe I will.
Well, I didn't prepare to be on camera, but I was working with you in your house, so. And
Kiara!
Yes!
Oh, oh, wonderful!
It's a small world, really.
I know.
So thank you very much for the presentation and all your encouragement in those days.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
yes.
you are a blessing to us at that moment, yes. And now we have two, huh?
Congratulations.
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that I enjoyed your presentation and thank you very much. It's nice, really. So yeah.
This is wonderful. I would never have thought I'll run into you here. So yeah. Well, yeah, it's a small world.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Great. Thank you so much. And I see Dr. Vero, you have your hand up. Please take it away.
Yeah. Hi, Tabi. Thank you so much for this presentation. And I think at least I will go home with something, and especially the last one that you gifted to us, go to where you are celebrated and not stay where you are not celebrated, kind of. Don't be just somewhere where you are tolerated. That's what that last statement was on. Really, I cannot say much about the mentorship or the coaching and all of that. And as a professional also, I maybe, how can I put it, not and being someone who is not an extrovert, if I can put it that way, and it's sometimes difficult to approach people, but I've come to learn in as much as I'm an introvert, I need a bit of that extrovertness, if I can put it like that, to reach out to people so they can help me, you know. So really having and having a mentor shouldn't be it shouldn't necessarily be someone in your field. It could be, you know, someone within your company that you just admire the way they do things, and if they are open enough, you can always reach out to them and say, you know, I admire you for this and that and that. Would you mind really coaching me? It could be or mentoring me in this area. And of course, sometimes it's intimidating just going to someone and not saying, okay, this is what I really want us to work on. So again, before approaching a mentor, you can already have something that you know you need to work on, so they can be your cheerleader, you know, and not necessarily in your area. And it could be someone in an area you are interested in, fine, but it could be someone in an area you are not interested in, that is not of interest to you, but someone that you see can be your champion. You know, they could also have the network to bring you to people that will help you, because sometimes that's what a mentor will do. So I struggle with that, but I'm really learning.
Yeah.
And again, looking within my company is really open for people to transition to other areas, but you need that champion behind you, you know. So you also mentioned about the digital transformation that is happening in most companies now. For someone who is interested in tech, you can always, you know, I'm not someone who goes to the to the coffee corner, but I see the importance of really reaching out for support, because you might not do it you might not be able to do it on your own, or as I mentioned, I'm really kind of timid sometimes approaching people. But if you already have an idea of what you want out of the mentorship, it really helps. I just wanted to touch on that, and to thank you again for mentioning that. And professionals really grow in that way, because you can't know all. You need that support. And for people who are really coming from completely different backgrounds, it doesn't stop you from reaching out to even someone who is not in tech to say, okay, I'm interested in tech, but I don't know how to really go about it. They can link you up to a huge network that will help you transition, whether a non-tech technique kind of thing, or, you know, again, being in the technology field, but not technique kind of, you know. So I just wanted to put a word on that. And that's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I was giving the case study of a teacher. You know, you don't think a teacher can be a cloud guru in her respect, right? So it can be anybody. If you have the drive, just go for it and make sure you have the right allies around you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And it's been quite an inspirational talk, and we'll take on board everything you've said. And thank your husband. We'll be keeping out for the person who will smile back to us. Hopefully when the corona is out and we start going back into the office space. So.
Yeah, that's what my husband would say. He used to say, if you I know Vera and Kiara perhaps know him, but he's just a funny guy. He said, when you start the job, look the person who's smiling at you. Make that your target, you know?
That's a good tip.
Very simple things.
And definitely we're taking it forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm unable to raise my hand. I'm trying to.
That's okay, Therese, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Tabi. Nice to have you here.
Thank
Let me
you.
just put my camera on to see who it's talking. Okay,
Hey.
this is me. Yes. It's nice having you here. And I enjoyed the presentation, although I came a little bit late, but I got some tips and information. But here, I'm sorry, I still have to raise the question here because we talked about how to transition from non-tech to tech and companies to companies. But my question is about how do you really, let me not say transitioning, you are like Dr. Vero said, you are making a complete jump from one place to the other to tech. You have no idea about the tech. You talked about coaching and you talk about support and you talk about how you can the non-tech areas where you can see what you can do because in the future there will be change and so on. But when I look at jumping from one, it's like crossing a river, going on the other side of the river where uh, let me say on this reef you have a mountain, a reef, and when you jump to the other side you have fresh grass and trees. You need to adapt in that situations. And crossing to another to take, what does it take sometimes for someone who has no technical background? And you mentioned some areas where they can work, but this one is making a complete transition to an area where you have no idea how to go on, but you are interested in that area. And how can you really cope with that? Or where are the, I just wonder how, what are the tips that you can really take to say, because you haven't yet made a choice. You just jump to that area, you're trying to explore, discover what is better for you, but you haven't yet got something that you are specific about. You are still in a state of exploring. What's the advice can you give someone that
Yeah.
can do that? Because I am one of them. Let me not be talking into. I'm one of those. I'm interested, but I'm still in a vague where I haven't really positioned myself to say, okay, this is it. I have got this.
Yeah. So the way I would advise is that what do you do, Teresa? Which is your expertise?
For the moment, I do consultation. I do little jobs here and there. There is no specific job because in my sector there have been where I was. There had been a lot of this corona disruption. Actually, I'm in the social and cultural sector where they are facing a serious, how can I say, drop of jobs because of lockdowns and so on. We are not able to perform as we are. So the companies are closing their doors because they cannot more make it to pay the bills. So people tend to lose their jobs and so on.
So if you're in the social cultural
yes, I'm in the
sector,
social culture sector. Yes.
Entertainment or no entertainment, just social.
Yes, part is entertainment because we work sometimes with groups, and part is consultation.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why the reason I'm asking is because tech also requires your skills, and it's just understanding where those skills are required. So I say that in the sense that you may not go in as, at least for day one, you may not say, I'm going to become a cloud architect. But you may be that customer facing program manager, for example, because you have worked with people. So social, cultural to me sounds very people oriented, very centered around understanding the need of the customer. So that already is an area where we see For example, an area I'm working in, it's called professional services. And professional services is understanding those pain points of customers and then putting what they call customer thinking design or design thinking, understanding the journey the customer is taking, and seeing where are we playing a part in that journey of the customer. So you want to position, so that's why I say always think about what am I doing? What are my strong points? And then start to think about where is this, how does this play a part in the cloud area? So cloud today, they also have to talk to customer. Any industry wants to talk to a customer. So maybe that's the area you can think about. So they talk a lot about customer experience. So the experience the customer gets. And then the knowledge you have here helps you to understand how the cloud can help the customer meet those, make the pain less. So this is what, if I was you, those are the areas I would focus around. Not to be the guru of cloud. Maybe you're not interested. You want to understand, but you're not so interested in being behind the computer and coding the whole day. Maybe your interest is to talk more to the customer, be that face to the customer. There's a job for you. So that means that if I was you, I would look for those type of roles and start to see if there's somebody you know or within your network, or if there are roles you can talk to somebody. LinkedIn is also a very good repository that you can find recruiters, ping them, say, can I have an informal chat about this role? That's what I would do. Ping them, see what, if you ping 5, maybe 1 will answer, right? And have that informal chat and start to understand what are they looking for, and then you start your journey into that. And then if they talk to you, you become connected. So you start to build a connection around that area that you can be very well suited. So there is a role for people like you. And I do have also family that was, has been affected by the pandemic because they were in the entertainment industry, some were in the aviation industry. So everybody's trying to make a cross somewhere, not necessarily in the cloud, but somewhere. But take what you have and capitalize on it where you're going. It's already very valuable. And that experience, nobody else might have it. So bring it along with you.
Oh, thank you very much. I think I have an idea right now. It was great asking the question. I was feeling intimidated to ask the question because I thought this might not be the right
question to ask. Like I say, I'm trying to humanize it. There's no,
Thank you.
I'll just plead again that everyone should feel very relaxed. I mean, we've always said that here. If you don't ask your questions here, we wonder where you ask it. I think, and Tabi has really made it very open to everyone. So please feel free if there are questions. Later, I see you have your hand up. Come in, please, if you want to.
That's it. Hi, Tabi. This is Leila. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you talk to us this evening. Yes, my question is just where would you place someone who with a hospitality background in the cloud?
Yeah, hospitality. Again, by the way, I'm just going by experience. I'm not an HR person.
Yes,
but I give So in hospitality, what I always say, what are you good at? I think in hospitality, you probably are good at selling something. Yeah.
Supervising, housekeeping supervisor.
So hospitality in what? Like, is that in restaurants, in the cafe, hotel?
In the hotel.
Hotel.
Yes.
So I always say that ask yourself what you're good at in that hotel industry, or what makes you happy. You know, sometimes it's what makes you happy.
I love to work with people. I love serving people. I love to interact with people a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. So I remember also one time hitting a hard place, and I went through some kind of coaching, and again, it's a lot of analysis, blah, blah, blah. And what came out of it was, the one thing that came out was, oh, Tabby, you're good at people. Whatever you do, make sure you work with people, right? So
Okay.
that people part is everywhere, first of all, because you have to see people, except now in Corona, you might not see them. But in the tech industry, there's always a people concept, because and I now take you as Leila, thinking you've worked in hospitality, you perhaps have some knowledge around again, dealing with customers, perhaps similar to what Teresa has been doing. Really think about the customer, because I can tell you, if you look at a lot of, even Amazon in itself, you look at what they call their principle, they say that they are customer obsessed, right?
Yes.
That's their mantra. In healthcare, we say customer centric. It's all about the customer. And already, if you have that kind of idea that customer is king, then you will find something. You will find an area where you can excel in this industry. It's all about the customer. It doesn't matter what solutions we provide. If you cannot sell it to the customer, or if it cannot answer to that pain point, then you might as well shred it somewhere. I know even in Philips, there's a big room, a big basement full of products that they were never able to sell. They were developed, but they were never able to sell them because there was no customer centricity around it. So I'll also give you an idea that, and especially in this room, when you think about customer, there's something in AI they're calling responsible AI now. And this is just an anecdote, so take it and use it the way you can use it. It's saying that, for example, they have this imaging equipment, which is able to look at the skin coloring. So it's when you're having, let's say, a tumor, for example, and based on your skin coloring, they're able to see the level of severity. And when these sensors were developed, they didn't have, there's a customer that they missed out. And that's the customer who has the melanin that we do. So the Black people were missed out in this whole big industry. And today, they really need to think about who the customer is. The customer can be anybody. It can be an African, it can be a white person, it can be people with different types of melanin. And so when you're thinking of AI, there's now that notion of responsible AI is to say, we need to have a diverse mind. So bringing that diversity into the play of cloud thinking is really important. Don't undermine what you have, even as who you are, as that person who is perhaps a minority in the area that you are, because you'll bring that outside box thinking. So that's what I want to say, is that not only the field that you have been, it's also who you are, that diversity is celebrated within the area. So think of areas where you could, they're lacking in a type of hospitality solutioning that they don't have as an organization, and you might be able to bring it. Yeah. So so today, let's say this company found out, they don't have that, those sensors, in fact, were at a default because of where they were procured, and they're now making adjustments to where they can be the first company that has that microprocessor that can be able to assess the severity of cancer irrespectful of your melanin. Yeah. So that's an example of how you can bring your worth by being who you are and as diverse as you are.
Wow. That's great. Thank you so much.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much again for your question, Leila, and yeah, Tabi, for handling that. Any other person with a question, please feel very free to come in. I think I just want to appreciate Tabi for staying much longer now already, and it's really wonderful. I don't know how much time you still have to be with us, but if there are people who have questions to ask, make use of this opportunity, please. Okay.
Yeah. And if not, I do want to also thank everybody also for humbly giving me this opportunity to share my experiences. I really think that this is a very good platform that has been formed to ask those questions that perhaps we wouldn't dare to ask, in our professional setting, or you think they're not relevant. But I think this platform really humanizes and has some type of empathy that we all want to get. So thanks a lot, everybody. And if you have things, later on and say, hey, Tabi, how would you approach this? Or do you know something? I'm very open. So, and Vero knows me, and it just, my door is open, is what I want to say.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
much.
Tabi.
Yeah.
And and you can always link up with Tabi on LinkedIn. And as Tabi is talking to us today, she's really an open book. I've known Tabi for quite a while now, and I've not seen an open person as Tabi. I mean, a lot of banter always goes on when we meet, but again, we might not discuss sometimes, how do you call it, careers and things like that a lot, because, okay, we have other things that bring us together. But Tabi, I must say, is the most open person you will be able to find. And if you link up with her, she should, she's really available. Tabi, let me not talk too much.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's really open with that big beaming smile. It stays like that.
Wow, great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tabi. We've been really blessed to have you here, and thanks to Dr. Shian and Vero who helped to have you come for us here. And I think there is a lot everyone here can take home. I think the other point for the people that we'll be talking about is doing that 360-degree uh, point you raise. I think it's a very good point for everyone to look into that and take in their skills. You pointed one thing of, people making that big leap and making the curve too steep for them. But when you understand where you are and able to take those skills along, they will be helpful. And your conversation has come to solidify somewhat of the guests made here as well, trying to let people understand also that where they are, they have something and taking it along. So this continue to help the community, and today I'm sure more will be having much more direction and definitely inspired, especially hearing from your own examples. So I really do appreciate for you taking the evening to deliver this to us. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
bye-bye, everybody. And feel free to just get in touch with me. I'll put my
Right.
LinkedIn before I leave for those who would like.
Right.
And you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
Tabby.
much,
Thank you so
Tabby.
much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
We
one.
really appreciate you for this.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Hugs to
Bye.
the girls and hoodie.
Yeah. Bye. And then we're